We all have our heroes that we just love to hate, that get on our nerves, that are too much of a goody two shoes or not enough. Let's be honest, us nerds love to be critical. Why? Because we care. Yeah, it's totally not because we're insecure at all. Right, friends? Right. In this list, we'll be looking at some of the characters who have not deserved the shade that has been tossed their way. The characters who have been hated, who have been criticized, but who many secretly, or sometimes loudly, love. So who is your favorite character to hate? Which character do you love the most despite all the hate you see tossed at them? Let me know in the comments below. And remember to spread the love by tapping that thumbs up. One of my favorite redeemed superhero teams was the Guardians of the Galaxy, who were transformed by some better writing and given new life in the MCU, when their original comics were just, well, kinda not great. Granted, Yondu has almost always been cool, and Alita, one of the original members, though portrayed differently now in the films, was also pretty awesome. Alright, enough cosmic talk, let's get counting! Number 10. Aquaman. Why do people love to hate Aquaman? Have they seen Jason Momoa? Well, before Momoa made Aquaman cool again, he tended to be the butt of everybody's jokes. He was often made fun of for the fact that the idea of him fighting on land would be as useful as a fish out of water, as his Atlantean physiology meant he could not be kept out of water for too long. But being royalty means that he is even more durable than most Atlanteans, meaning he can survive for longer than most out of water anyways. Besides that, the fact that his body is able to survive so deep underwater and under such pressure makes him insanely strong on land. Also, with our oceans as polluted as they are, and Aquaman basically fighting to protect our oceans, he definitely does not deserve the hate. Number 9. CYPHER. I know I've even poked fun at CYPHER's abilities myself before, but to be fair to the mutant translator, his powers have been taken to a new level since his resurrection in the comics. When he was originally introduced, he was simply painted as a character who could help avoid conflict through conversation and understanding. Some brush this off as being kind of boring. But in the world we live in now, where the idea of a nuclear war terrifies just about everyone, the power of being able to understand and communicate with someone, of being able to resolve issues with words and resolve conflicts, is a praised one. Although being able to understand any language seems like an easy feat to accomplish in a world where we have the internet and we can study and learn languages relatively simply, CYPHER's powers now transcend that. Since his resurrection, his perception of the entire world has become language. He even tried to decode the internet and can better understand machines as a result of his new heightened sense of understanding and awareness. You may think this sounds like a coder. But the reason why CYPHER deserves your love, not hate, boils down to how he understands all languages and code, subconsciously. Where others work to translate or understand, he just does. Number 8. Squirrel Girl. Despite often being made fun of, Squirrel Girl still manages to be one of the most loved characters. Hate gets tossed her way because her powers are considered to be, subpar. She is known for her tail, ability to climb, communicate with squirrels, and strong jaw. Yeah, I get it. If one of your superpowers is that you can bite things real hard, it's hard for people to feel like you are that amazing. But Squirrel Girl is also super strong, and what she may lack in abilities, she makes up for with heart and cuteness, and ingenuity. And despite her powers being kind of weird, she always seems to use that ingenuity and her smarts to defeat a slew of supervillains. She was even offered a position at S.H.I.E.L.D. If anything, Squirrel Girl would make an awesome D&D player. She definitely knows how to utilize the abilities she does have. Number 7. Hal Jordan. Part of the reason that most dislike Hal or take issue with him is that he is somewhat outdated. He is boring. Having been around for a long time, his character seems safe and not all that inventive. Combine that with the disappointing 2011 Green Lantern film starring Ryan Reynolds, who has since found superhero success with his role as Deadpool, and it's easy to see why people struggle to like Hal Jordan. But regardless of whether or not he's your favorite Green Lantern, the fact remains that he is iconic. He was one of the first Green Lanterns we ever met, and for a lot of people he got them interested in DC Lantern's core storylines. So for that reason alone, I feel like he deserves some respect. Not to mention that, but despite his flaws, he is a relatively well-rounded character, who oftentimes is just trying to do his best. Also, his BFF relationship with Green Arrow is adorable. Just relax, forget about the events of Zero Hour, and maybe send some love his way. Number 6. Hawkeye. A lot of people like to hate on Hawkeye because he's kind of just a normal guy when it comes to his abilities. Like, is being a crack shot really a superpower or just a super skill? Or maybe it's because he's kind of boring, or because he's kind of just a less impressive and lamer version of Marvel villain Bullseye. But regardless of how you feel about him, he definitely does not deserve the hate. He may even have superpowers, who knows? He was for some reason susceptible to the effects of the power drainer in the new Avengers after all. What's up with that? Hawkeye deserves some respect for being powerful enough to garner superhero status and Avenger status without even having any powers. Not only that, but he has got to be one of the bravest Avengers. Remember that time he used himself as an arrow in Avenger Volume 1 issue 502 to save the rest of the team and take out a Kree mothership? Whew, talk about a crack shot. Number 5. Dazzler. Some may think Alison Blair's powers are kinda silly, in and of that they are basically turning her into a music-absorbing disco ball. But when utilized properly, her powers can also be insanely strong, which means that all the hate she gets just for shining so bright and being so glamorous is unwarranted. Dazzler was actually written in as a core team member for the X-Men when she made her debut in the Uncanny X-Men issue 130 in 1980. And only a few years ago from now, in the Astonishing X-Men series Volume 4, her fantastical sound-related powers have let her stand up to such enemies as the nanotech-controlled Banshee, absorbing and using the sonic scream of her possessed teammate to take down 2 Reaver-controlled Sentinels. Dang. Not only that, but Dazzler has also proved that she was cool enough to have her own self-titled comic book series. Yeah, which actually lasted 42 issues. If you want to see how tough she is, give it a read. In issue 32, she even takes in Black Bolt's insanely destructive voice like it's nothing. Number 4. Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers. When Ms. Marvel was promoted to Captain Marvel in 2012, it created some pretty big waves in the comic book world. A lot of people had loved Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel and were loath to see her adopt the mantle of her then dead friend, hero, and sometimes romantic partner, Captain Marvel of the Kree race. Not only that, but a lot of people detested the costume and hair change. She went from this to this. Beyond that, the MCU introduction to Carol Danvers decided to skip right past her history as Ms. Marvel and decided to introduce her as Captain Marvel. The film also dealt with people criticizing the film's and lead actress playing Carol, Brie Larson's, social justice warrior undertones. But regardless of your political thoughts or your opinions on fashion, Captain Marvel has definitely earned the respect and love she's garnered from dedicated fans. She has been a core part of the Avengers team in the comics since the 1970s. She's proven herself time and time again as a strong leader on the team, especially during the Skrull invasion storyline. She was instrumental in the first Marvel Civil War story, fighting on Iron Man's side, and later went on to be a lead player in Civil War 2, which saw her take up arms against her old friend Iron Man, and she even won. Well, sort of. Number 3. Jubilee. First thoughts when it comes to X-Men's Jubilee may revolve around the 90s cartoon, as a helpless young X-Men not really in control of her powers, who mostly shoots off little fireworks. Because of these initial thoughts, a lot of people dismiss Jubilee, remarking on her as having lame or insignificant powers, and even are annoyed by her. But what people seem to forget is how fun and silly of a character she can be, and even underneath all that teen angst, how integral she can be to the storytelling side of the X-Men. She's resourceful. In the comics, she found a way to survive and live in a mall by using her powers as party tricks, probably why they are often presented as being stuck in a low-level gear. She's instrumental. She actually used her powers to defeat a group of Reavers and save Wolverine's life. and later sort of became his sidekick. Her powers are stronger than you think as well. Emma Frost has referred to her untapped potential, explaining that she could detonate matter at a subatomic level. In other words, she could create the effects of a nuclear fusion bomb. And she said that Jubilee was one of the most powerful mutants that she had ever met. What? Number 2. Storm. Yeah, I bet you're wondering why I'm going here. I mean, who hates Storm? Well, before she was considered a potential Omega level mutant, many people always thought that Storm's powers were somewhat lackluster. I know, most people when they think of Storm, they just think of localized weather. She can create a storm, sure, but not like threaten the planet. And there, you'd be wrong. There was a time in the comics where she was under so much stress that as a result, she was able to tap into the full potential of her powers. In other words, she created a global level storm that threatened the entire planet. She was even compared to the Phoenix Force at the time in terms of power levels. Fortunately, her teammates were able to calm her down, but that story served to prove that Storm really is on a goddess level. Number 1. Cyclops. A hero many love to hate, Cyclops, though the golden boy of the team, is also perceived as being a bit of a stick in the mud. Beyond that, he also psychically cheated on Jean Grey and thought that was okay. Regardless, Cyclops I feel often gets unfairly critiqued for the fact that he is the one who has to make the hard decisions in the group. He may bump heads a lot with his teammate Wolverine, as they often don't see eye to eye, and even get criticized for that, but there is a reason why he is the leader of the group. He is often militaristic, level-headed, and good at risk management when it comes to being the X-Men's leader. Sometimes he takes things a little too far, but he is always doing so with his teammates, the mutants, and the world's best interests at heart. Thank you so much for watching this video, friends. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment down below if there is a hero you would like to see on perhaps a part 2 of this list. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you never miss another nerdy list from us. Thank you for watching. My name is Amanda McKnight. This is Top 10 Nerd, and remember to stay nerdy, YouTube.